All right, I think my mic is working. I think if I push this button, it'll start the show. It does. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Happy Friday, This is the day when we discuss how eventually all of us are going to be cyborgs, and I look forward to it as long as our cyborg parts are sexy and complimentary and don't have to be changed to fit our outfit. That will be far too complicated. Also, I think the future of having an eyeball that strangely has old lens like or gun sight like features from the mid 90s and earlier that make you tell it's a fake eye. Also, I think a little short sighted, no pun intended. I think just make it look like a regular eyeball. I'm fine with that. I think it's best if people can't see what you're targeting. Anyways, thank you. Thanks, Doc. Boo. That's right. Um, and did not see that coming. We'll talk about those folks in a little bit, especially around the government shutdown potential. But first, right out of the gate, I want to say hi to our chat room, who are lovely and who are here, and let you guys know that thanks to your generosity and support, and my mom's birthday gift, and the our dear friend Buddha and the Eagle, who put us over the top. I ordered the computer today. It'll be coming on October 12th. It's one of those things, man, where you're like, okay, let's do it. It's a big one. This is probably the biggest single expenditure this show has ever gotten on its merits. Here it goes. Just going to take a bunch of money and just throw it at this problem and try to upgrade the show. And God damn it, here we go. And I ordered it this morning, and it won't be here till the 12th. So it's an M2 Ultra cheese grater Mac, so that it will be expandable for the near future. I toyed, as many of you know, with getting the Studio, which has the same processor that's currently available, but once it's baked, it's baked. And I was like, the ability to upgrade this one to continue to grow what's possible will be very necessary, especially when I end up with an AI co-pilot. I've decided, you know how like Robin, Howard Stern has Robin, and Jake and Skeeter have Jenny the Office Hua, or whoever, you know those morning shows and radio shows where they have somebody that's their kind of go-to sounding board for their ridiculous ideas, who pretend to not have heard the jokes before and all that stuff. Yes, with fast chips and lots of RAM, Alyosha, the most we can get. It's maxed out. The only thing I didn't max out was the hard drive space in it, because it seemed unnecessarily expensive, and I could put other drives. I'd rather have a RAID drive, because you know. So I got a 4 terabyte drive in it, and maxed out the RAM, and I think that's the key. So yeah, right. So I'm gonna have an AI. I think we got to have eventually an AI sidekick, and the computer will be necessary for that. I'm just gonna say, like, it should be a rotating character that can change itself. Most of the time, I want it to be like the orb in Tron, that just tells me, and you can just tell emotionally what it's saying. Like, we all speak R2 all the fucking sudden. Joe Rogan has Jamie. That's exactly right. Fuck, I don't have my the thing set up right now. That's a shame. Give me 1 second. There we go. Close this. It just kind of sucks the air out of the room if I have to, and then switch this to 60 frames a second, because it's better that way. In here. Jamie, put up on the board the thing about how we're all going to be cyborgs. That I read that article I smoked the other day. Put that up on the board. The thing I read about how the Aztecs predicted that we would all have smartphones. Yeah, and yeah, it's right under the article. It says weed is natural no matter how much you genetically modify it. Yeah, put that up there. So. Jamie, put up that article where I'm half Bing search now. Basically, I'm Bing search. That I'm Joe Rogan. I'm more 2 hours out of the day I'm Joe Rogan, and the rest of the day I'm Bing search. Look like Trump without his wig. He doesn't have that big a jaw. And that said, I'm your Hucklebot. That's a great line. I'm your Hucklebot. We'll deal with the AI stories of the day and the future of our world and the fact that we're all going to be half robot in just a moment. But I would be remiss if I did not point out that Diane Feinstein has died at the age of 90 last night. The president spoke today at Mark Milley's retirement ceremony and made a statement. They released an official statement today about his personal feelings about her and her being a trailblazer and the longest serving woman in the Senate. And I don't want the idea that she hung on too long and was getting long in the tooth and was clearly dealing with dementia at the end to eclipse the great work that she did in the Senate. And that's always, the danger, I guess, in overstaying your welcome politically or I guess even artistically, in some cases. And I I I hope that in the remembrance that is where people are going to talk about her, they point out those facts about her resilience and her intelligence and the like, and not just let the fact that as we all get old, some of our brains slip. If we live long enough to see our brain slip, we're often lucky. That's her legacy, dementia, thanks to her handlers. It's a shame, right? And I don't think it has to be like that. I think that's up to us. And I think a reminder that one of the reasons why she hung in there as long as she did and probably was stubborn about it was because when she started there were 3 women in the Senate. And now there's 28, something like that, 25, 20, 26, 28, I think it is. Um and you know she had to fight so hard just to get elected. She ran for mayor, she ran for governor, she ran for Senate, and then finally got in. And in she mayor of San Francisco. And so I look forward to people kind of in the eulogizing of her, sort of going through a review of all the good stuff that she did, and I think more than anything, her representation is somebody who embodies the idea of if at first you don't succeed, try again, and that resilience and that hard work actually. I mean, if it wasn't for her, certain things like the automatic weapons ban, those kind of things wouldn't have happened the same way, or maybe not at all. And so the fact that she did go through that she did hang in there, and she did eventually become a senator, and the things she signed off on, and the things that she, she co-authored in the Senate, for example, those things wouldn't have happened had she given up. And at a time, by the way, when let's not pretend it was the 1940s or some shit like that. I mean, post 80s, there was the 80s were all about it was the decade of the woman, and everybody was moving forward. And it was not surprising that by the 90s we would get it would trickle into finally breaking the Senate, which is again because it's a 6-year term, takes longer to do. But we'd already had the Democrats had already had a woman vice president, that they ran, even though she lost, but we ran one. So we were well down this road. So it was great. Yeah, she wrote the bill and pushed hard for it. Exactly. And she co-authored a myriad of other things. And so that shouldn't be lost in the fact that, in the last couple of years, she's been on a hard fade, as some people are, and that's life, right? She was a good woman who did great work. Period. And I remember my my grandfather died of Alzheimer's. He had colon cancer at the same time, and they basically made a decision to take him off his Alzheimer's meds when he was in the hospital, rather and let that take his body down rather than the colon cancer. Essentially, he was was inoperable, and they weren't going to be able to save him. So they basically just made the decision that he doesn't need to be medicated for his Alzheimer's. He's hospitalized, and eventually his heart will forget to beat, is essentially the way they were looking at it. And that's pretty much what happened. But he'd had Alzheimer's for a couple of years. And it's one of the reasons why my dad has traditionally been so afraid of it. And I think he wants an excuse to forget shit. But uh but my grandmother lived a couple more years, like 3 more years after he passed. And she was very aware until the very, very end, until she was literally in the hospital, and So proud and happy Hal is remembering her today. Other places aren't mentioning it. MSNBC is, and I think that's to be expected. But I wouldn't be surprised if a bunch of them just blow it off. But my I talked to my grandmother at one point after my grandfather's funeral, and she said, in a lot of ways, she had already done her mourning. She had already mourned the passing of my grandfather because he hadn't been him for years. The man she loved and grew up with, and grew with and had children with, and was married to for decades, was already gone. And so she had to deal with that already. So the passing of his body was less of a thing. And I think that's certainly true of in Diane Feinstein's situation, where the strong, resilient woman that she was, that got her in the position she was in and made her the longest serving woman in the Senate, um, was effectively gone once her dementia had reached a certain point, by no fault of her own. And any decision she made after that point is, again, a representative of a physical malady, not her character. And obviously, the next big question is, who will Gavin Newsom appoint to take her place? Is he going to put someone in that is already running? And will he go by seniority? Because famously, Schiff and Katie Porter are both running. Katie Porter is in a pink district, a leaning red district, and Schiff is in a safe district. It would make more sense just on the merits to put him in that position. It's also a weird situation to replace the longest serving woman with a man, and there's all that kind of like gender politics around it, which shouldn't be at this point. Not in California. California has nothing to fucking prove about I'm fairly certain, I don't know, it's San Diego. I think all the major cities in California have female mayors, for example. A lot of women on the city councils, a lot of female congresspeople. It shouldn't be an issue. It should be able to just pick somebody, who's put the time in, essentially. And Schiff has been there the longest, and is, I think, shown himself to be very capable. I think he'd be a great senator. More than likely, he will win when he runs, anyways. But Newsom said he'd put a woman into that space. I think it's kind of a setup. Well, because that person probably won't win if Schiff runs against them. So, but as a temporary hold, that's totally fine. But again, I think California has nothing to prove. Yeah, and Schiff we don't necessarily need in the House, because him in the Senate would be as valuable, I think, long term. And like I said, his district isn't one we have to worry about. Katie Porter's is, and she's particularly talented and smart, and her demeanor, all these things make her a palatable Democrat for a lot of those folks. Whereas if you got a firebrand or somebody else in that spot, they might toss the seat to a Republican in the next election. That's a possibility. I don't think it's, honest to God, between you and I and the digits between us, the zeros and ones, I honestly don't think it's going to matter, because I think the Republicans are setting themselves up to lose horribly in the next election cycle, and it will continue in a decades-long cascade south. The Republican Party is in the same shape as the Chinese economy. It is in a death spiral. So, yeah. And I don't see them salvaging it anytime soon. Yeah, we do need to hold Katie Porter's seat, but I think ultimately the Republicans they won't even allow themselves to run somebody in a primary that isn't a full-on Trumper, and those people can't get elected in those kind of areas. If they lean Democratic ever, if there's enough independents in an area, they're not going to put up with this shit. And as long as we start pushing back on, like, Infrastructure Chips Act, we're not in Afghanistan anymore. The economy's in recovery. Inflation's coming down. The Saudis are fucking with us on gas prices to try and help their business partner Donald Trump. But other than that, America is doing better than the rest of the world because it's got good leadership right now, and we need to keep going that way. As long as we can say that kind of forcefully and comfortably, and watch the Republicans sort of twitch when we bring it up, ultimately that will lead independents to go, yeah, I'm just going to vote for fucking normalcy and function. I got shit to do. And so I don't think the Republicans have you know, they don't have a deep bench of people that will appeal to independents right now, if that makes any sense. Gavin Newsom spanked Hannity. Yeah, I love Gavin doesn't take any shit from him. And by the way, full disclosure, I I have adored Gavin Newsom as a human being since he was mayor of San Francisco, and he and I walked from Harvey Milk Square to the Supreme Court building in San Francisco for gay marriage. He like just, I mean, I think he was still with Kimberly Guilfoyle at that fucking point. But what a good dude. And I made jokes that day when he was making the speech with my a couple of my fellow castmates who came up for that as well. um, and that like he was doing the Clinton chop. He was doing the diagonal chop, which means you've gone to politics school and you know that in certain parts of the world, if you do like this, it's a threat. So you have to, if you're going to make a hand gesture with a chop, you do it diagonally. You don't give thumbs up because that's fuck you in the Middle East. So you do the Clinton thumb, all that stuff. Right. He was already doing that in the early 2000s. And I'm like, this dude came out of a dispenser that makes presidents. It reminded me of that joke about McDonald's that Steve Martin used to do. Like, I think everything at McDonald's comes out of the same machine. It just goes whack, hamburger, whack, chocolate shake, whack, French fries, whack, here's your change, thank you. That there's like a machine that makes presidents. It just goes whack, Gavin Newsom, and he absolutely would be a great president, no fucking question. The Prez dispenser. That's great. CSL. Did you watch the whole hearing yesterday? I was proud of them. Yes, I did, Sylvia. It's great. I mean, I love the fact that Democrats are just making a mockery of the impeachment inquiry, and that's the only way you can handle it. You just got to talk honestly about a way. Try to get real evidence in. Try to get real witnesses in that will, that are their own people that will completely undermine their entire talking point, and then just mock it the rest of the time. They've got an amazing strategy. We talk about having a deep bench of really smart, capable people. Democrats, especially right now. I mean, we got a bunch of good ones, and I do think Gavin, running currently whatever the 7th largest economy in the world, is a natural fit moving forward to the presidency in 2028, for example. Do you think you might appoint Barbara Boxer to Feinstein? That would be an interesting move, Carl. Yeah. Especially if she wants to do it temporarily and then let somebody run. It's a good question. AOC is a star. I gotta say, AOC has matured into her post in a way that's really impressive. And she, like, it was 0 fucks o'clock when she was speaking on that thing yesterday, and especially when she went after Byron Donaldson. And I'll show that later. She went after Byron Donaldson for having for that fabricated WhatsApp message, which cut out all the other conversation about it and made it look like, only a couple of sentences were said when it was 2 fucking paragraphs, which totally eats into the story they're telling. And she just, the fact that she wasn't afraid to say fabricated, I was like, dear Lord, woman, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much, thank you. As insofar as the votes that will go on today, I think they're having the vote currently. We'll keep I gotta look real quick. They're doing this stupid, like, float the wish list thing for the Freedom Caucasians. Yeah. Did I say, yeah, who did I say? Yeah, Byron Donald. Did I say Byron? No, I didn't. Byron Donald, yeah. Just and he was watching him sit there kind of whinging about the fact that he knew he put up a piece of a doctored image. No metadata. Hey, no metadata. It didn't happen. Sorry. Yeah, it was great. And this childish kind of way that this condescending bullshit from McCarthy was like, we're trying to put a system together, and this president and these Democrats don't want this to, this, like, he's talking to fucking toddlers. It's fucking embarrassing. I mean, I guess it's what you got to do to get elected in Bakersfield, but Jesus Christ. Or to talk to the rest of the goddamn caucus. Ugh. But let's see if I'll check and see if C-SPAN has the vote up. House advances considering okay, hold on. Yeah, this is the watch live.
A healthy democracy doesn't just look like this.
C-SPAN, be quiet. I'm opening it up. Give me 1 second. Households will be turned. Let's see. Yeah, so they're actually allowed to do amendments and yeah, they're not gonna have fucking time to do this. Jesus Christ. They're currently. This is oh wait, hold on, there we go. Tempo. This is them. This is live. Yeah, this is Debbie Wasserman Schultz speaking right now. Rise in opposition to this so-called CR, which is a MAGA gift basket to extremists. Right. Yeah, they're not going to vote for it. And there's a bunch of Republicans who won't do it either because they've got to cut 30% out of a bunch of programs. And red states need these programs more than blue states do. So, yeah. Defunds police, undercuts allies like Israel and Ukraine. Yeah, this is just this is to keep him from getting bounced. This is their like individual votes on all these things. It's a waste of fucking time. It's so stupid. And I do not think it will pass. Rural states need more federal dollars than blue states do, than urban areas do, ironically, even though there are way more fucking people in the cities. So, yeah. Yeah, so this will go on for quite some time, but I'm not going to hold my breath that we'll see how the vote goes, but ultimately it won't matter. It's a temporary thing. What they're trying to get is 30 days where he can, and apparently there was a big fight between Gates and I don't know if you guys saw this. Like there was some angry yelling and screaming between Matt Gaetz and McCarthy. Let's see. Ew. Let's see. See if I can find the whole back and forth. But he was basically one of the other people told him to like fuck off in the middle. It was like somebody was yelling at him. Like Matt Gaetz was saying something about like I don't know, random Matt Gatesy type shit, and literally one of the it was like McCarthy's second in charge was like, "Oh, fuck off." This is kind of fun news. You want to see something fun? This is just kind of maybe put a little, just I don't know, cheer you up a touch. Hold on, why is this mic so low? What's happening? There we go. All right. This was pretty funny. I don't know if you guys saw this. Jiu-Jitsu star chokes Alex Jones unconscious on his podcast. And I have to say, it looks like he paid an extra 20 for it, is what it looks like. World-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitor Craig Jones had Alex Jones on his podcast this week and choked the famous conspiracy theorist to sleep using a popular BJJ technique. Okay, first of all, don't say BJJ technique because that sounds fucking weird. Secondly, that's not a popular Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu technique. That's just a fucking headlock. It's a chokehold. Everybody, that's how they all are. It's uniform. You're giving us levity. Bobo is responsible for that. She said, "Oh, I see. Yes." Jones complained that that Eddie Bravo wouldn't choke him out for fun, so he asked Greg to do it, and the Australian champion obliged. Eddie Bravo wouldn't do it. "Come choke me out. Come on, do it. Wide shot. Here we go. I'm lights out. Take a little snoozy." What did I just do? What was I just doing? Did I actually pass out? Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, hey, I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. This sounds like something he's been waiting his whole life to have a sweaty young man wrap his m- heaving, hairy, muscular arms around his neck and give him a rock solid squeeze. Um, and it's a, hey, there's no better time for Alex Jones to finally relax and come out. It'll I think it will lead to much better outcomes for everyone if he wasn't such an uptight bigot. We'll see. um that said, I just found that particularly fun. And yeah. uh and by the way, it absolutely, some people are asking, it could have been faked. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I would argue it's bullshit. I would argue that he pretended, because um, when you're in the shape that someone like Alex Jones is in, uh, there's a chance that other things happen to your body when you get choked unconscious. You could very well shit yourself or piss yourself, or even in some cases, uh, it, there's a mild chance you could throw up into your own mouth and choke like that. It's not a good thing. It's not. Don't do that. Don't try this at home, kids. It can absolutely be dangerous. Never mind. Yeah, blood. Somebody mentioned like a blood clot, or that's also a possibility. But the idea, yeah, yeah, you can get a boner. That's true. That is absolutely true. That's it, but it's not a cure for ED. It's not even a treatment. Yeah. Let's see. Hold on one second. Let's see if they find this story. Whatever. Let's try to do this. I'll show you this story. I find this fascinating. That people aren't aware of this particular thing. One of the big stories this week, was a bunch of the like these big klepto gangs, the organized groups of thieves that are coming in and just scooping up product and running off with it. And by the way, anybody who says that this is a reaction to like poverty, or these are just poor people, who are dealing with the fact that they don't have, a pot to piss in, so therefore they need to steal an iPad for themselves, and they just got together with 35 of their best friends to all go do it together. First of all, no, this is organized crime. It's a version of when the mob used to hijack trucks. It's just another variance of that criminal endeavor. Okay, it's just a bunch of people with their face covered running into stores and grabbing shit instead of knocking over a fucking truck. Yeah, they're fucking thieves. Stop it. This is not about like I need a scrap of bread, I need help. There are a myriad of social services that we give to people who are on the edges of things, and none of them involve them going, fuck, I need the newest iPhone, um, because I for a job that I don't intend to take. It's stupid. It's theft. It's criminal. You should do time for it. The rest of the world is the rest of the society is trying to just get about the business of being alive and doing shit. And you shouldn't have to worry about like a stampede of thieves kicking over your kid's stroller while you're trying to buy a fucking iPad someplace or shopping for a blouse. It's dumb. It's thievery. It's criminal. Knock it off. Yeah. Well, phones can be locked out, Greg. This is the thing that seems to have surprised them, because this is one of the stories that I wanted to show everybody. And this should be abundantly clear to anybody who is engaged in this kind of stuff, especially, I mean, it's obviously when you steal clothing and they have the little chirping anti-theft device on them, right? Which is, a big part of, why they don't steal clothing except in the display fronts, because the ones where you're holding them up and trying them on versus the stuff in the back don't usually have those things, and t-shirts and things like that that are lighter, that it affects the fabric if you put those those bigger devices on it that make noise or dye it or any of that kind of shit. They don't really have them in there, so they run in and steal the stuff in the front of the store, right? The Sensormatic, right? But all the ones that they took, um, uh, apparently they can be rendered useless, and they start making noise, like an alarm noise. This is one of the stories, but this is the one that kind of came up when I was looking at cackling like hyenas. These iPhone looters think they've struck gold after clearing an Apple store of its goods, but the joy quickly turns to horror after the store disabled devices and set off alarms on them. This rendered them not only useless, but also incredibly irritating, as the looters in Philadelphia couldn't stop the blaring noise. They even resorted to pouring orange juice over an iPad to try and stop the incessant noise. One of them declared, "Oh my God, this is crazy." It's also, by the way, oh my God, this is crazy, on social media. So this person was part of a theft gang, stole a bunch of shit, and now they're posting on social media how it's making a bunch of noise and it isn't working, and then they poured orange juice on it, or like, oh my God, these phones, oh my God, the same person is heard saying. Stolen iPads going off, people laughing about it. Dozens of people ransacked an Apple store in Philadelphia on Wednesday night. That's what they were talking about, where they all kind of blazed in. This is organized crime. I don't know why. And the I wouldn't call it these soft bigotry of low expectations or something like that. But this is just a modern equivalent of knocking over a fucking shipping truck. So there is a kind of, I don't know, there is a kind of inherent racism to the people who won't criticize this behavior, where they're just like, well, I mean, what do you expect from them? You know what I mean? There's an attitude about like, well, that's just how they are. And no, they're not. No. For anybody who needs to know it, black people are complete human beings. They have all of the capability and the moral spectrum and the intellectual spectrum of anybody else on the fucking planet. They're not stuck in a little like narrow window of behaviors, attitudes, and morals somehow, because they're like, it's sort of like the inverse of acting as if all Native Americans were antelope. I made a joke about this in the show that I did at Flappers, and I'm uploading that today. I tried to do it last night, but my computer went to sleep in the middle of it because it's a rather big file. But there's a tendency to talk about Native Americans who were here before the Vikings came, and before the Spanish and the French and the British came and war with them, that they were all kind of like hippies, that there was just like all, and that they were uniform, all had the same kind of religions, language. This is like this, it's odd, you know what I mean? It's like, imagine talking about Europeans and pretending that the Germans and the French and the British and the Irish and the Scottish and the Spanish and the French and the English and the Russians in league with the Mongols hadn't attacked the Hungarians and all that none of those dust ups ever happened, that Europeans have one language and a singular culture. Imagine thinking that, like, how stupid you would have to be to believe that. People sort of believe that about Native Americans, that they were all the same, that they all lived like perfect Boy Scouts or something, and I have to say, to me, that dehumanizes them. It says they live in a small window of human morality, capability, intellect, and spirituality, and they never go outside of it unless pushed by some unseen evil force that they had no other choice, like Kwai Chang Caine. They just kind of come alive, and they had to do rape and raiding parties because the Spanish were moving into Mexico, even though they were Plains Indians, and they wiped out 9 other tribes because they bought horses from the Spanish. Like, it's just so silly. So the New World Indigenous people were fucked over, and so are the New World Indigenous people were fucked over, and so are, which ones? Again, Nick Rich, I say, which ones? Because Does anybody know what Mohawk means? Anybody know where the name Mohawk comes from? Not the hairdo. The hairdo was associated with the Mohawk. Do you know what the word means? Somebody will probably Google it, pop it into the chat. I'll wait. It's pretty shocking when you find out what Mohawk means. Mohawk was a boogeyman? Nope. It's way farther than that. What it actually is, yes, it's a tribe, right? Nope. People of the Flint, that's the name that came after when the white people named them by where they were. No, it means flesh eater. They were cannibals, was the idea. That the Mohawk would eat people. And the Iroquois gave them that name. The interesting thing is the Iroquois also practiced cannibalism. So, and scalping's, yeah, yes, I am. Yes, it's just true. Just like settle into it and understand that. Can you look at the Millie speech? Yeah, Tammy. As a matter of fact, I'll play that this afternoon if that's okay for you. Yeah, it means iPhone seal. Yeah, it meant cannibal. The Mohawks were, yeah, they don't mention that most of the time. As I've said many times, no group of humans on the planet that has an oral history ever has a history of horrible things. If your tribe or your people only do an oral history, you're always the good guys. You know how they say the victor writes, like history is written by the victor? Yeah. Well, your own personal past, it's great if you're the only person telling your story. And that's the thing about it. So one of the reasons why the Iroquois Nation Treaty, which had some of the seeds in terms of trying to get along, that the French and the English had negotiated with the Iroquois about beaver hide trading, and which is a totally different thing than beaver trading, and deer skins. Which, by the way, do you know that like the deer skin trade with the Native American tribes is why we call dollars bucks, because of buckskins. It's fun. Little details. That's why a couple of buckskins. So you could trade stuff for like guns and gunpowder and other. Did I say beaver fever? No, but I alluded to it. That's the important thing. And hold on one second. I'm going to blow this up so I can actually see this. Yeah. So it tastes just like chicken. No, it doesn't. Venison does not taste like chicken. Not at all. We're all just animals. No sentient being animals should be killed for food. What about animal to animal? Animals. So are lions immoral? Why aren't cats vegetarian? And if we're all animals, what difference does it make? Honestly, if we're either all sentient or we all aren't, animals aren't necessarily sentient. That's the distinction, right? Many humans in the world, the white man's notion that he is less savage than the other savages, Mark Twain. Yes, I agree, Sparksaw, but I also would argue that somehow, like, the vision of Native Americans that most people have is a guy crying by an Italian, by the way, crying by the side of the road at the sight of people throwing garbage out their window as they drive down the highway. And I've mentioned this before, but like Comanche tribes, when they would raid another Indian tribe, this isn't about their reaction to white people. This isn't their reaction to the Spanish even. This is like they would raid other native tribes. They would, and raid is just another phrase for group rape. The rape of your society, the rape of your women and your children, and the murder of your men. Yes, I'm going to have an afternoon show today, of course. So when they talk about Indian raids, understand that's what it is. And it wasn't like something that they dreamt up just when white people started showing up. It was the method of how things worked in these territories before before the Spanish showed up, before the French showed up, and then certainly before the English showed up, because they were sort of last to the party. So the Comanche, one of the things that they would do, besides torture the men to death, rape the women, and take the children that weren't old enough to enslave, one of the things they would do they would take a rope and attach the rope to the child, and then they would drag the child to their death by a horseback. They would, sometimes multiple kids. They would take like 3 kids and just tie them to the back of a horse with a long rope, so that they would kind of bounce along the ground and be torn to pieces. So that when people returned to their village, if a hunting party or somebody had gone away and they came back, the Comanche did this. It wasn't that rare. There were other variations. This is just one example. The Comanche would do this. They would take the children. They would, kill the men there that were still there. They would, they would wait till the biggest fighters were off, either hunting or doing something. Then they would raid the village. They would rape and often kill or take the women. Then they would kill all the men that were still there, usually the older men. And then they would take the children that weren't old enough to enslave, and they would tie them to these ropes, and they would drag them. They would, everybody would march off. If they took slaves, they would take those slaves to their camp back their way. But to divert the people that, the warriors that were coming back down another path, they would drag these children to death, dozens of them. I don't know however many were in the village, drag them to death so that they were just torn to pieces behind the thing, leaving this increasingly bloody trail that you would follow. And at the end of it would be your shredded children. And it was both a warning and terrifying, and meant to build up this horrifying fear of this other tribe, but also to divert you off into another direction away from everybody. As you thought maybe they're bleeding, maybe they walked bleeding, or they left, they followed after, maybe they tried to go after somebody. And so you would follow the trail of your family's remains, and that was it. And then you would find all these dead kids at the end. That's that's just for starters. Native women in the Comanche tribes, the Apache, were this way as well. Iroquois would do it as well. Certainly the Sioux had a history of this, but when they would capture another tribe, and again, this is not about white people or anybody coming from anywhere else, because a lot of the tribes didn't make a distinction except in color between white people and another tribe. They just saw another tribe trying to live on their land. They didn't care if you were white or again, like Pawnee or something like that, or you were Navajo or something like that. If they wanted you out of the way, you got out of the fucking way. And increasingly, it was the tribes that built the biggest relationships between the French and the Spanish that took control over and wiped out all the other smaller tribes, who you can argue were the indigenous tribes of that area. So as the Apache and the Comanche expanded, as the Sioux expanded through the Dakotas and those territories, they wiped out dozens of smaller tribes, killed them and took their land in a way that was as violent, if not more violent, or equal to what the white settlers that later came in did. It's not strange to the time, is what I'm trying to say. And in the case of a lot of these tribes, the women were actually spent more time torturing the male prisoners than the men did, because they sometimes they would, if they had lost somebody in a battle between them and another tribe, if they caught some Indian warriors from the other tribe they were fighting, the women would torture that man to death for the crime of their husband or father or son or whoever being killed in that battle. And so the scrotal torture alone is of legend. So no one is saying Native Americans didn't commit atrocities, but don't minimize Caucasian atrocities against Native Americans. I'm not, Barb. I'm not. Atrocity to atrocity, it's kind of like that old thing about what would you rather be, too hot or too cold? It's a ridiculous thing, because it's too much no matter what. It's too hot or it's too cold, no matter what you think. I prefer cold, I prefer hot is a ridiculous conversation because no matter what it is, it's too hot and too cold. Once you get into battle, that, 1-to-1 against humans, you can make a moral argument about one side of it. But once you commit atrocities, that's wrong. Does that make sense? What I'm doing, some tribes were matriarchal. No. Some tribes had matriarchal respect for the council of women, but that came way later in the tribes that survived and had a lot more to do with reservation life than it did to do with the initial life before anybody else got here. No. And the ones, if they did, there were some, they didn't survive the encroachment of the larger tribes. They were wiped out. And these facts are based on what? A myriad of historical sources. This isn't even like, what I'm saying isn't even up for debate. This isn't, I'm not going, well, I read in this one book. It's the cascading history of this entire continent. Were big then to survive. The Ojibwe tribe must have been very big then to survive that. Well, I don't know how big the Ojibwe were, and it may have been their trading relationships. A lot of the smaller tribes and medium-sized tribes survived by trading with the French. That had a huge impact. So, tell us Halloween knowledge. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. So Halloween came about largely because of agrarian societies. Once we started farming, one of the things we do is we take all the food that we're going to have for the winter, this pre-refrigeration. You had to preserve everything, So a lot of the, like, if you had cucumbers early in the summer, you would pickle them, right? And any meats, you would dry them. When you get to the fall, it's the last run at fruit because that's the stuff that it's the hardest to keep. A lot of vegetables, you can find ways through salt and other things to preserve them. Think kimchi and things like that, where you can actually jar bok choy or vegetation in a way that preserves it for a long time in salt and spices that keeps it, healthy and gives you, available calories through the winter. But fruit was the hard one. So agrarian societies, especially in Europe and in the early Americas, would jelly and candy their fruits later in the season. And so October was sort of the last time you'd do that, right? And there was this habit of going, at first frost, they would kill animals up until they went to hide. So that was a different process. But as far as farming goes, and this is, I'm doing the cliff notes of this, but essentially this is where you get Halloween and All Hallows Eve and the fact that demons are coming out and all that stuff. Where the root of this comes from is because you jelly all these fruits and stuff, and everybody had a different, some people grew different stuff. Some people had cherries, some people had strawberries, some people had blueberries, some people would go out and find raspberries, and some people would have an orange tree or whatever the fuck. And so they would jelly those at each house. And so the kids, there would always be a little bit left over. Yes, they would dry them as well. But that was more of an early midsummer kind of thing. Near the end, you would jelly them, and it would make candy-like stuff, pie-filling kind of level stuff. And there would be stuff that wouldn't fit in the jars. Everybody had a little too much, right? There was always overflow. So the kids would go house to house and ask for the treat left over of the prepared stuff. And this is where, in the societies that Halloween kind of came out of, this is where it came from. And so kids would go house to house and go, oh, we'll go get some candied cherries from one house, and we get some candied, fucking orange slices from this one house, and we'll go to get she candies raspberries and all that kind of stuff. And they would go house to house and all this. And and you get a bunch of kids jacked up on fucking sugar, their eyes are all hollowed out. It's been days. It wasn't just one day. It was over the course of a couple of weeks, that you would do this process. They would trick or treat, right? They would just go around. And so you'd have these kids who were just fucking strung out on sugar, going house to house, like, you're gonna have some fucking orange slices and syrup, or I'm gonna fucking kill you. And so, hence that was kind of the rudimentary way that the idea that ghouls were taking over and that demons take over our children and all that kind of stuff. This is the modern version of it, but this is how it kind of came about. And so you're like, oh my God, demons have taken over my child. Like, nah, he's just jacked up on fucking sugar. He's a little sugared up monster. He's He's Beavis. I'm Cornholio. I'm looking for TP for my bunghole. You know, like when he would get all jacked up on sugar and like that was what happened to him. And they're like, they could never put it together. Like, maybe it's the sugar? Nah, it's got to be it's the ethers. It's the demons, right? Yeah. And so if you didn't have the candy, they'd fuck your house up. So that was the trick or the treat part. You don't have some treats for us, we're gonna fuck you up. So then it became a habit. Like, okay, and then eventually it was like, all right, we can't do this all fucking week. You guys can't come knocking at my goddamn door at all hours. One night. And then the night before was like All Hallows Eve because the kids were like, fucking tomorrow's the sugar. And back when you didn't have as much exposure to sugar as you do now, so it was at like peak drug impact on you. And you didn't have access to white sugar for, like processed sugar in other stuff. You didn't have sugar cane. This was just your access to sugars. It's kind of equivalent to the stories like you ever watch like occasionally those nature specials where you'll see monkeys getting drunk on rotten fruit. It's the same thing, basically. And the kids are like, that's why skulls, that's why, little monsters in the woods, little, the idea that there are spirits running around because all the kids are fucking pasty. Right. And they're high, they look, so like, it's so obvious if you think about it. Men do this when they want sugar? I see. Yes, because women never get cranky. I've never met a hangry woman who needed a coffee. It's a little early to be this sexist, especially when I'm trying to equalize everybody's humanity, God damn it. Wasn't also parades for church funds? That's later. That's stuff they start tacking onto it. I'm talking about the social roots of it. Hal, please write a sitcom based on this. Yeah, it'll be like my version of Blackadder. The decorations are to scare the kids. Yes, that's right. Yeah, you want that's why you wanted your house to look like a haunted house so the kids would be too fucking afraid to attack you if you didn't have any stuff. Or you'd go, oh, you better be nice when you come up here. I'll set my demons loose on you. The social roots of it and the weaponization of superstition explains so much in fucking history. Look at mirrors. Okay, the reason why it's 7 years bad luck if you break a mirror is because in indentured servitude and in the world of having everything from slaves to butlers across the board worldwide, that throughout Europe, when you had a mirrors used to be made out of silver. They were the most expensive and the most miraculous and strange thing you could have in the fucking house, but made out of glass. And they're easy to break. And where occasionally it was understood that if a cleaning person knocked over a vase or something like that, it was one thing. That could be sort of replaced. But the fucking mirror was impossible to replace. That was it. That was a mirror that was going to be in the family. There were people who, like, you look at some people escaping war zones in the 1800s and the early 1900s, you see them they don't have any artwork with them. They got a big framed fucking mirror that's left over from when they were uncommon. Now we can fucking get a mirror anywhere. It doesn't fucking matter. But back then, it was like, holy shit, where are we, we'll never get another one. So how do you protect, if let's say you're shitty to your servants and they, boom, fucking somebody broke the mirror. I wasn't there. And it's not like you have cameras in the house or any of that other stuff. So basically you tell them it's bad luck and you use the sort of superstition of an uneducated person to police them when you can't be around to make sure they don't break your mirror. What is the email to contact people for this channel? Bookhal at iCloud? I don't know. It's on my website. Now the Russians steal toilets. That's different. Yeah. That's because they just simply don't have them. Yeah, people used to not know. Well, they could see their reflection in water, but they had to go to a still pond to get a good idea what they look like. Yeah. You mean religion, Hal? Religion? No, I don't. I mean superstition. There's a distinction. And I make a very important distinction between those two things. Not all religion is superstition. Sorry. I mean, it's the distinction Thomas Jefferson made. It's the reason why when Thomas Jefferson modified the Bible, when he made his own personal edits to his copy of the Bible, he took the miracles out because he believed those to be superstition as opposed to the ethics and morals and character building aspects of a deity that we can all relate to. Sam Hain is from a religion? Well, yeah, I mean, everybody had a different name for it. We had lots of different demons and whatnot. Sort of like why Jews can't eat pork. Yeah, because trichinosis. And if you can't explain to someone, look, if you eat that, you're gonna die. And you go, well, what else do I have to eat? I'm gonna have to eat it. Without it, if we don't, we'll die. We'll figure out something else. I don't have to figure out something. It's right there. Okay, but you eat it, you'll die. Ah, fuck it. God said don't eat that. Oh, why didn't you say so? Like that's essentially it. Pam, you can't just say wrong. You have to let us know wrong ... about whatever particular thing. Is the government going to shut down? That's debatable. I think they're going to end up passing a CR, probably 24 hours. I think there's a group within there that just wants to be able to say they've notched a shutdown on their belt. But I don't expect it to rage on for a week because it is abundantly clear in the narrative across everything, and the business world hates the government shutdown. So the hard part for the Republicans is you think we worry about like veterans not getting paid and Social Security checks not going out on time and the NIH not being able to do its fucking job and all the like real function of government. But you got to understand, like Tesla doesn't exist without government contracts. Neither does SpaceX. And so some of the people that the Republicans deify the most get a lot of their money off of either government contracts or it's a significant segment of the goods that and services that they sell. And if that goes away, every single day they lose profit. And that cascades, even if it's not your particular business, you probably are tied into one that, you know, where the government's one of the big contractors that you use, and that messes with. Yeah. Just a time update, top of the hour. Oh, thank you. Thanks, CSL. Is it? Yeah, well, there we are. Also, we don't have a guest today, so it's just me yammering. So apologies. We'll go to we'll maybe look at some trends because we haven't seen that in quite some time. But yeah, the shutdown means they can't investigate Biden either. Yeah, but that just lets them off the hook. I mean, they're digging in shit trying to find turds, and it's very strange to me that they're just looking right past all the shit that Trump has done and is doing and continues to do, and acts like and well, they're like, we've got to figure out what Biden might have been doing when he wasn't even planning on running. Oy. Yeah, it lets them off the hook. They can go, we want to get back in there. Believe me, nobody wants more than us to get them bank records and see if we can find some kind of crime in so that we can start the process of maybe telling a story about something. Hold on one second. Let's see. Yeah, there's a couple of things I want to show you here. Whoops, there we go. Here's what I'm kind of talking about in terms of this. Here you go. Craft beer, marriages, and air travel, the collateral damage of a government shutdown. It's not just national parks and Smithsonian museums. And by the way, I'm sure some of you, if you've seen Boebert, she's been talking about the parks are going to get closed because she's from fucking Colorado. They don't have a lot of exports in Colorado. They got a lot of people coming in though for hiking and scenery. It's a big part of their economy. Hunters now become the hunter, not the hunted, or whatever. Yes, it's true. Made a profound. Did she, Mary? Well, send the clip to to CSL or to Andrea and let them see it so I can talk about it. I don't want to look at it beforehand. I want to share it with everybody. But the federal government does an almost unfathomable number of things. So a shutdown would likely affect everyday Americans more than they realize. More than 4 million Americans who work for the federal government, the nation's largest employer, will be affected. A range of economists, including the White House Council of Economic Advisors, estimate their lost wages and halted operations could reduce overall economic growth forecasts from 0.1% or 0.2% each week. Even though federal employees wouldn't be working, the government would not save money. Employees would eventually get paid, thanks to legislation signed into law by then-President Donald Trump, meaning taxpayers could be on the hook for billions of dollars in wages for millions of man-hours not worked. I love this. I fucking love this. This is, you want to talk about the art of the fucking deal. I'll see if I can open this. Do they have this one? Yeah, here it is. This is Government Employee Fair Treatment Act of 2019. So Donald Trump signed, here's the text of it. One second. There you go. Donald Trump signed into law this bill that means that when there's a government shutdown, employees don't lose their wages during the shutdown, but they don't have to make up any of the work. And if anything is exemplary of how Republicans feel about the fucking budget and the purpose of government, travel and eat the same as starving children, to feed pigs, tear apart your society, to travel. Yeah, but the Jews weren't always. It's not. By the way, it's not just Jews that don't eat pork for the exact same reason. It's an analogy about religion, but I hear what you're saying. There's a myriad of reasons. The top one being it'll kill you. But anyways. And by the way, my mail from I was supposed to pick up the mail from my post office box. I know people sent birthday messages. I have not gotten them because they are there, but they're mailing it to me because I couldn't go by because my neck was fucking with me. So anyways, this is so fucking Trump. This is how the Trump family, who have never worked a fucking day in their life, would of course be the ones to put this in there, where government employees are being paid not to work. Whenever there's a shutdown from now on, thanks to this, thanks Dargal, I did have a good birthday. It was lovely. They sang happy birthday to me at the Jam. It was very sweet. It was just, yeah. I was not expecting it. That's the first unexpected cake situation I've had in probably 2 decades. No, that's not true. Well, I kind of expected on Lab Rats. Lab Rats, we had my first birthday on Lab Rats. They brought out a cake, and I was like, "Aw, come on!" I did not cry, but I was very touched. I blushed. But if anything sums up how much art of the deal is bullshit, is the fact that the taxpayers are still on the hook for every dime of expenditure the government would be doing during the shutdown, but no work will be done. It's just goofy. Many parts of the federal government, including the National Park Service, have not yet detailed their plans for a shutdown, and that's not too surprising, as some consequences are tricky to predict. Past shutdowns show that plans tend to be in constant flux as the closure drags, with Congress sometimes appropriating partial funds and agencies scrambling to respond to emerging problems. One of the things that they fucking can't... Okay, emergency services in the national parks have to stand by all the time anyways. But if the park is supposed to be closed, there's this weird hitch in the get-along that happens where they're like, are we supposed to go in after people right now who aren't supposed to be in the park after closing without special dispensation from the governor or without the National Guard going in? Because we're the people who work on, rescue people who are lost in the fucking woods when people are supposed to be in the woods. When they're not supposed to be in the woods, that's a law enforcement issue. And it becomes a search and rescue for someone who is breaking the law. And so we can be a part of that, but we don't sign off on it. And during that whole conversation, someone is fucking lying there with a broken leg or being dragged through the woods by a bear. So Republicans can't govern. Big surprise, not. Well, I would argue it's not even that they can't govern. They have no interest. Again, Say it with me. But the Republican mantra is government can't do anything right. Elect me and I'll prove it. There was damage done to the national parks during the last shutdown. That's right. Vandals came in and fucked with stuff. Exactly. Yeah, it's a feature, not a bug. I mean, if one of the defining phrases of your, well, two of the big defining phrases is "I'm from the government and I'm here to help" is the scariest 11 words somebody will ever hear, and then you need to get a government so small you could drown it in a bathtub. If those are your two defining characteristics about an organization you seek to be a representative member of, I question your values, and even if you are indeed on the side of democracy itself. It's also why I've been a big advocate for a very long time of state single payer systems being able to be sold across state lines, as opposed to a single payer system from the federal government being the only option for universal health care. Because after a certain while, if it hasn't gotten up to speed and people aren't satisfied with it yet, and it hasn't gone through its growth phase, like the ACA, which was very unpopular in the beginning, but is very popular now, and it took time for people to recognize its value. The same thing would be true of a single payer system. And if a Republican White House gets in there and they undercut its funding with an executive order, and even if they get there's a stay, or the Supreme Court, or if they've got even a Supreme Court like they do now, which would be against it, they file a lawsuit to get rid of single payer because they believe it's a violation of the Commerce Clause or some shit like that, or it's a monopolistic activity by the government, and there's a myriad of laws that they could use to attack it. They get in there and they do it, then it's all gone. But if Massachusetts and California and Washington State and Illinois have their own single payer systems that are run in the state, and anybody, whether you live in the state or not, can buy into it, and if it's great, you can enjoy the services and how it's paid out. And if you don't like it, you can choose another state's single payer system where the profits only go to support the citizenry of that state and help them build roads and schools and all that kind of shit, kind of like lottery programs. I mean, do I have to break it all down all the time? Yeah. And somebody was saying Rob Glenn was right about something, which is often true anyways. But I didn't see it go by. Man, this is a big chat. I have to say, it's hard for me to catch up sometimes. I need eventually. Can states override shutdown in their states, parks? He said no. It's federal land. Yeah. Problem with universal basic coverage is that someone can universally can single-handedly undermine it. Does that make sense? That's why I like that diversity of doing it via the states and buying across state lines, because you could thoughts on Michael Gambon and his passing. I mean, it's sad, and it's there's here, I'll show, hold on, let me bring him up for he was Dumbledore, and 82 years old, seemingly by all measure a lovely human being. Oh man, why do it always plays ads on that stuff? Skip ad. Don't want audio on this. Nope. Okay, there we go. And yeah, Michael Gambon played Dumbledore, 82 years old, by all measure, just a lovely human being, a talented man, and very sweet. Yep. It's it's interesting, when you relate to the passing of someone when they're older, we have a tendency to even if it doesn't feel like it was expected or whatever, the number, once you get up past a certain number, we're more comfortable with your passing in that way than the tragedy of somebody dying young in that regard. And that makes sense on the material essence. Not like this person didn't have another decade of life he could have given and performance he could have given and all that, and that anybody else is guaranteed any days in front of them necessarily. but it's sort of habitually, socially, how we think about these things. And I think it's part of the coping mechanism in dealing with it, certainly. Um, but there's sort of a rest well, sweet prince or princess, when someone is the age of Diane Feinstein or Michael Gambon. And uh, in the same way that in dealing with my uncle's passing and my other uncle being ill, that my where I'm emotional about it, where I find, the heartache in it is in the people left behind, the people who are living with that pain. So to Gambon's family and, that is where my, sort of my sympathetic thoughts immediately go, if that makes sense. So, and it's always good when they, share people's work, when they go, and people get reminded, especially when you're older and you have like this career that goes back when you had brown hair and no wrinkles and the like, and you've been around for a long time, right? So, by all measure, it seems a lovely man, and a sad passing. And I think for a lot of people, if you grew up with like the Harry Potter fans, and there's a depth of fandom there that I think people are attached to. And I would argue that, when Leonard Nimoy passed, I think a lot of like Star Trek fans had a similar feeling about just our history with that human being. How old was your uncle? 81. Yeah. Yeah, they just had the military funeral for him on Friday. And my other uncle is younger. He's still in his 70s, but it was just yeah. I'll at some point I will relay sort of what I'm as much of the story as I'm comfortable with telling about his health and what happened, but he's effectively um, I don't know if it's persistent vegetative state or effect. It's not a coma because he can open his eyes and look around. He just can't communicate. Um, and it's one of those things where the doctors are like, he might just snap out of it, or he might die in his sleep, or he might live like this for decades. They don't know. So my dad is heading down to see him today, actually. So, and I may fly down there depending on, he's going to basically, it's one of those situations. And I know many of you have been through a similar thing with your family where a family member who's either closer to the circumstance, whatever it is, will go, you might want to come now, or, we'll let you know if you need to come to town and, to say your goodbyes and that kind of stuff. And so that's, yeah, it's been a heavy couple of weeks. Um, But needless to say, it just reinforces my feeling about um, what a sweet person Keanu Reeves is, and and how he was saying, he goes, "What happens when you die? I think the people that we leave behind miss us." I think that's um, that is a permanent truism, no matter what your beliefs are. Yeah. I'll be eligible for Social Security in less than 11 years. Save up. I will. I'm not planning on retiring though, so I have one of those careers where the older I get, the more rare I get. People in my job get, so I can keep at it. Yeah. Yes, this is a different uncle. That was we lost my mom's brother, and this is my dad's brother. Yeah. Been there with an aunt. Was told come see her at the end. It was near. I went to see her 2 weeks after I left. She passed away. Yeah. Unless you don't vote in the GOP Social Security. Right. Yes, that's true. Everyone must vote. Good old Johnny Mnemonic, right? The Johnny Mnemonic is a terrible movie, but I will say uh, there's well, we'll do movie reviews later on another on another front. There's just so much shit to talk about, and I wanted to do. Let's see. Um, right now, New York City is declaring a state of emergency, which is crazy because of the rains. Check this shit out. Look at this. The name of this picture is hilarious. A man clears debris from a drain Friday as a car makes its way through floodwaters in Brooklyn. He's trying to like scoop the drain out so the water will go. It doesn't have anywhere to go. This morning, 23 million people are under flood watches across parts of New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. Kathy Hochul declared a state of emergency for New York City, Long Island, and the Hudson Valley. Eric Adams issued his own state of emergency for New York City. Flash flood warnings in effect for parts of Long Island, Brooklyn's Queens, Manhattan, New Jersey for flash flooding that was already occurring or imminent. By 9:45 a.m. today, most areas around New York City had already eclipsed the 4-inch mark, which is some of the highest totals of. Yeah. And yes, you're right. If Donald Trump fucked the flood, he'd be an inch short. Is at max. Record parts of Central Park at already 3.28 inches. New York's JFK, LaGuardia Airport's up 422. There you go. And this is dot crews driving through, actively patrolling downstate highways to monitor flood conditions. There's the incredible flooding inside Terminal 8. This is LaGuardia. Shit. Look at LaGuardia, man. Yipes. No, I don't get out of here. I'm gonna miss my boat. Yeah, LaGuardia is a low water point, anyways. It's a bit. There's a reason why it's a bit mildewy as a as an airport. Just saying. But so be careful out there. The rats. The rats. The rats. Um, let's see. Trying to grab this guy. Um, yeah, they're like movie scenes. Oh, it like you see some of the again. This is happening everywhere. I love how like we're like droughty, drought, 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 and Earth's like, you know what? You want water? You asked for it. Fuck, here it comes. Yeah, yep. And this is currently Gavin Newsom is pledging to choose a black woman to replace Diane Feinstein. Um, and I'm totally cool with that. Yeah, I would as we have spoken of about how absolute ass Donald Trump is at being a judge of character. Gavin Newsom, on the other hand, I trust his judgment. Yep, he'll put somebody good in there. I have no worries. Democrats' delicate majority in the U.S. Senate puts extra pressure on California to quickly pick a replacement. Already names were being floated. Situation is complicated and wrought with political risk for Newsom. No, it isn't. The Democratic governor's promised to appoint a black woman. He's also promised to avoid the field of candidates already running. That's what I was saying, which is set to expire at the end of the next year. Includes Rep. Barbara Lee, one of the state's most prominent black women currently serving in elected office. So she won't be put in the position is what everybody was asking because he'd already made that promise. Made no mention of Feinstein's replacement statement he issued marking her death, which is, I think, appropriate. Dianne Feinstein was many things: a powerful, trailblazing U.S. senator, an early voice for gun control, a leader in times of tragedy and chaos. But to me, she was a dear friend, a lifelong mentor, and a role model, not only for me, but to my wife and daughters, for what a powerful, effective leader looks like. Newsom said, there is simply nobody who possessed the strength, gravitas, and fierceness of Dianne Feinstein. On Capitol Hill, Feinstein's death leaves Senate Democrats with no margin for error until a successor is appointed. Yeah, they'll do it before in a matter of days. Democrats now have a functional majority of just 50 seats in the Senate, while Republicans hold 49. We also have if there's a weird flip over tiebreaker reason for something, we don't need it. It's fine. Same time, many Democrats are calling for the resignation of Robert Menendez. Right, he'll be replaced by somebody who will stay in the seat. That it'll be longer to look for him, but they're gonna have to move to vacate or something because he's not gonna step down. Yeah. Newsom's choices all run political risk. Should he follow through on his pledge to avoid picking from those already running, he could select a true caretaker who would be replaced by whomever voters select in next year's election. A handful of black women in office have been floated as a possibility, including Secretary of State Shirley Weber and Los Angeles Supervisor Holly Mitchell. Lee and others lashed out at Newsom after he indicated he would select a caretaker instead of picking from the current slate of candidates. Yeah, but that gives them a leg up. The idea that a black woman should be appointed only as a caretaker to simply check a box is insulting to Collins. See, this is where she's mad because she would be the prime choice to honor that, and that's why she's mad, of course. I mean, you could argue that you don't think there's a black woman that is willing to caretake it, that has another job or another path ahead of them to be a state Supreme Court justice, or to be in the to run for president at some point, or whatever. Like, it could give a leg up to somebody who maybe even is outside the realm of most known electoral politics, and give someone like that a leg up or a toehold where they might not have had one. What about when you get too old for comedy? You'll never be too old to do comedy. Are you kidding me? Never get too old for comedy. Come on now. Some people might get too old to laugh because they get crotchety in their old age. It's not the same thing. Whoopi Goldberg? That's a different person. Whoopi? She's in New York. Yeah, she's a New Yorker. So I don't know that works. Burns showed us that. Absolutely. Fixing a hole where the rain seeps in to stop my mind from wondering where I will go. Oh yeah, I got shows booked till I'm 150. How long will you keep doing your jumps? Forever. Yeah, you even drop movies till the end. That's right. When I spoke to Diane Feinstein at the wedding, she knew my grandfather and uncle who were congressmen. That's lovely. Yeah, Burns made it. He didn't make it to the 100 mark. He died at 99. Mel Brooks is still very funny. Here's my thing. The great thing about comedy is, for me anyways, is that you don't have to stay the same comedian you are. You can't, because as your life experience changes, what you focus on and your own point of view alters, just like any other human being who transitions through that. And so you joke to a whole new audience or to a whole new way of life, and you're experiencing it newly, just like the other people in your age group. And that doesn't preclude you from making jokes that can be appreciated by people younger or even older. Nobody's it's like it's an odd thing to I think it comes out of rock music to some degree, is that there's this idea that you can't transition from a style of music to something that more suits your current energy. And yeah, I think that that is slathered across a lot of art forms. And imagine saying that about an actor who always tries to play 15-year-olds or something because they were on Dawson's Creek or some shit. At a certain point, aging into characters and stuff like Jeff Bridges has been doing, all my characters have a weird little jaw thing that I do now. It seems like Jeff Bridges is now just playing variations of Carl from Sling Blade as a cowboy. That's what I think about you. I love Jeff too. You know what's a favorite Jeff Bridges movie? It's very difficult to do. Very difficult. I mean, because Lebowski will get a lot of shit, but Starman, holy shit. Oh, hey, Phil. Hi, Phil. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Thanks for being here. That's my uncle's name. I have an Uncle Phil. So I feel like we know each other. It's good. Starman is just lovely. Starman is just a lovely movie. And I have ordered Dutch apple pie so many times just because of that movie. Not that I even care either way. I'm not even a huge apple pie fan. I like it, but it's not something I would pick that over what I really wanted on the menu someplace just because it says, Dutch apple pie, just so I could take a bite of it and go, Dutch apple pie. It's terrific. Oh my God, Karen Allen. Yeah. Who didn't have a fucking Karen Allen crush during that entire period? Oh my God. Just as Miriam, as in Scrooged even. God damn. Right? What's up, internet? Hey, Boston Brian. Good to see you, brother. Is that where that came from? Yes, Dutch apple pie. It's terrific. Remember, she's like, how's the Dutch apple pie? Because she's ordering food for him. He'd never eaten, or he didn't know what it was like to eat. And she goes, how's the Dutch apple pie? She goes, it's terrific. And so later on, he goes, Dutch apple, how is it? And he's like, oh, Dutch apple pie. It's terrific. Old Man was very good. He got was it sick or injured or something during it, so they had to stop production. But the fight scene in the car is just fucking where the guys are following him and he ends up killing the two younger dudes. It's just brutal. It's really well done. Boston Brian, good to see you. How about you hop on the show next week? You want to come in and visit? I know you got to work sometimes. We got a lot to talk about. The breakthroughs in Ukraine, there's lots. Just saying. Yeah, he got sick right while they were filming it. Cancer and COVID, yeah. And he lost weight during it too, which was really fascinating. I didn't hear news about Ukraine. Okay, I'll bring up some stuff about Ukraine. Excellent. Boston Brian, we'll make it work. We got it. You and I will have to do a special like Sunday show or something because you're a working stiff. God bless you, young man. Hold on, let me open up. I'm gonna. Do I dare dip into, because it's the morning show, the Telegram channels? Because fucking hell. Yeah. Oh, here, like. Good Lord. Okay, hold on. Going to Southern Front update. Here we go. Yeah, here's this is Warriors from Ukraine update real quick. This is from their Telegram. Here you go. From the Analyst, Southern Front update. The latest information is that the artillery bombardment around Verbov and Novopropivka areas is still ongoing, and it's had a highly detrimental impact on the Russians. They're losing vehicles and ammunition dumps, never mind a fair bit of artillery to precision strikes. The Russians have launched a media spin campaign using outdated footage from 3 to 6 weeks ago, saying the Ukrainian attack was foiled at Verbov. So be very aware they're trying to undermine everyone's confidence. According to the Ukrainians, they haven't even deployed the 3 primary brigades yet on Verbov, and the troops assaulting Novoprovka have the advantage of holding the higher ground, which is why things are so difficult for the Russians. Again, it has to be remembered that long before these assaults started, Novoprovka was clearly understood to be very difficult to defend because of the surrounding terrain. Verbov, on the other hand, is on flatter ground with low hills around it. Both sides have control over them. Fighting in Novoprovka has been intense for days, but the Russians are moving back. The biggest problem for the Russians is they can't rotate out either because the Ukrainian bombardments have trapped them, and they're just not allowed to leave. This has resulted in tremendous losses on the VDV forces, whose attrition levels are said to be appalling. There is exhaustion, lack of ammo. Some units yesterday claimed that bullets for their guns arrived without gunpowder in them. Wow. And were as good as useless. HIMARS have been deployed tactically around the front too, as these have massive impact on their targets. Published a video showed an entire Russian counter-assault group carefully making their way on their stomachs over open ground covered with scrub and cluster munition, terminating that operation rather effectively. Ouch. Yeah, there was a bunch of guys retreating from Verbov that were Russians who just got wiped out. Because, again, they were falling back to another line. It'd be one thing if they're like fleeing the country. Believe me, they would be allowed to go. But, falling back to another line so you can continue to open fire, it's your ass. I'm very much in the opinion that Ukraine, this is the rolling thunder of artillery storm that will create the empty zone that lets them move with speed and set up a momentum. They can use it to maneuver, and then the tanks and armored vehicles will attempt to break through. There are more troops on each side there than the Russians started the invasion with. The lack of airstrikes by Russians has also been noted. It's as though they know the Ukrainians have brought up air defense units in the rear and won't risk it. Hold on. Excuse me. I got one more in me because 3 is good luck. There it is. All right. Cat hair. I think it's what it is. Cat hair just kind of like, it just goes up your nose like a spear. All right. I was talking with associates this morning, and we're all mentally drained. I'm so committed to the need to defeat Russia, and always have been these past 45 years. Nobody has come closer than Ukraine, and they have to win. They simply have to. We all know it. This is a battle on the road to that victory. As the great legend of military thinking, Sun Tzu wrote 3,000 years ago, how victory may be produced for them out of the enemy's own tactics. That is what the multitude cannot comprehend. All men see the tactics by which I conquer, but what none can see is the strategy by which victory is evolved. Do not repeat the tactics that have been gained. You won victory, but let your methods be regulated by the infinite variety of circumstances. Right. Diversity is our strength, as it were. And yeah, I'm going to, this is the Kiev Independent. Yeah, this is the news. Okay, so one of the things that I don't think people recognize is that Russia's running low on gas. Let me say that again. Russia is running low on gas to the point where they have restricted the export of it. Now, why they're running low on it is anybody's guess. Largely, it seems like they have sent everyone who works at the refineries to the fucking front line to die. But this is from the Kiev Independent. But this is Gazprom reports gas production drop of 25%. The state-owned Russian energy. By the way, that's in case you're wondering, that's the company that that Carter Page worked for a little while. Fuck Carter Page. The state-owned Russian energy company Gazprom has released figures showing that its gas production fell by 25%. Russian news agency Interfax reported on September 28th. The reporting period compares that to the first half of 2023 and the first half of 2022. And let's see. This is I got to be careful what I scroll up to. Yeah, this is the big news too. Ukraine is taking the war to Crimea. There are multiple hits inside Crimea. Now, let me show you this. I don't even fucking think people. Okay, hold on. Yeah, there it is. This is Reuters. And okay, this is the August one. I want the newest one. Hold on. Yeah. Check this shit out. Now, how did we all start? Let's chat room. How did we start this horse shit? Oh my God, Europe can't do without Russian gas. They're going to freeze to death. Russia's going to freeze and starve fucking everybody because they got the gas and everybody else needs it. Blah, 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 blah. So, check this shit out. This is today. Russia curbs gas exports amid worsening diesel shortage. Russia issued a temporary ban on the export of gasoline and diesel in response to a worsening fuel shortage, according to a government decree. The order, signed by Mikhail Mishustin, said the temporary restrictions are effective as of Thursday. The Energy Ministry also said it would prevent unauthorized gray exports of motor fuels, which is their black market problem that they have, because that's probably why they're running out, is because everybody's siphoning anything they can take out of the fucking country because they see doom on the horizon. Fuel shortages have been reported nationwide in Russia, which is one of the world's biggest producers of oil and gas. Wholesale fuel prices have soared across the country. Temporary restrictions will help saturate the fuel market, which will in return reduce prices for consumers. That's right. So U.S. gas prices are higher because the Saudis are fucking with everybody. But Russia, which is one of the biggest producers of this and has more control over their oil and gas industry than we certainly do because they have effectively tacit state control over it, is running out. Yeah, they're Russian. Yes, you're right, Greg. The drilling and refining infrastructure is failing. That is absolutely what's going on. It is not about sales or even the market itself. These motherfuckers don't have anybody minding the pump anymore because they sent them to be fucking cannon fodder. So, like, that, I find that stunning. Now, how is that possible? I'll tell you why. Because, and I know this might upset you, Putin, no matter what Donald Trump tells you, is not sharp as a tack and at the top of his game. He isn't. He may have been a sly former KGB strategist, evil, not afraid to do the awful, and therefore everybody thinks of him as smart. This is the serial killer impact. Oh my God, serial killers are so smart. Why? Well, because they sneak up behind people weaker than them and murder them when nobody's around. That's genius. The fuck out of here. So, maybe, just maybe, they're just fucking taking advantage of civil society. And the reason we think like nobody would even think of that, they think of everything. It's because none of us would think of that because we're not monsters. It's like saying, I don't know, coyotes are they're so clever. They wait till the cat's outside to kill it. Yeah, because they're not smart enough to open a fucking window or a door. What are you talking about? I know, but it's very smart. Do they have an option? Not really. Can they open the door? No. So they're outside? Uh-huh. And if the cat goes outside, they eat the cat? Uh-huh. Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right. The fucking regular Hannibal Lecter there. Putin is Hitler. No. There's a very important distinction between Putin and Hitler, and we're very lucky that he isn't Hitler because Hitler was effectively suicidal at the end, if you believe that, and that he's not living in Argentina or whatever. But he was also a true believer, and Putin is not. And true believers tend to do jihad and suicidal kind of shit at the end of their lives, which I don't believe Putin will do. Putin is the head of a group of what are effectively hedonistic, oligarchical, power-hungry assholes. They'd rather live and have and eat and survive than go. They don't believe there's something in the great beyond. There's not a and again, you could argue that Hitler believed in some level of religion or mysticism or whatever. Nobody can really be sure what his true beliefs were, but he believed that he was going to be king of something in the afterlife, according to the Thule Society and that kind of shit. Putin doesn't necessarily believe that. For all practical understanding, he's more than likely an atheist because of his Soviet upbringing. So more than likely he doesn't think there's anything after this anyway. So there's never any reason to leave. You don't make a point. You're just dead. So you're talking about a guy who believes he will be worm food, making a decision as opposed to, and just killing a bunch of people for spite, including his own people. Whereas, a person who believes that they might, there might be 72 virgins waiting for them or a seat in Valhalla or fucking, the God will welcome them in for wiping out the terribles or whatever. Is it Argentina? I always get it mixed up. I forget where Hitler went after they put his brain in a jar. So that's one of the issues you often have with true believers, and luckily we don't have that with him. Yeah. Let's see, and let me go back to. I got to make sure that I'm not. I always have to scan.
Hello
through
and welcome
these things,
back.
so
First, it was BLM going belly up, and now there are serious concerns that America's top racism guru has squandered tens of millions of dollars. Dr. Ibram X. Kendi has made a fortune lecturing white liberals on how hateful they are, thanks to his best-selling 2019 book, How to Be Anti-Racist. Watch.
One more moment.
Well, actually, teaching people to see racism There's a difference. Like the
They're
racism
having a
mirage,
concert in Red
but
Square
racism is
right
real.
now called One
And it's,
Country,
you know who's
One
the
Family,
most
One
likely to be
Russia.
harmed by racism? Our children. And you know who we're least likely to engage about it? Our children.
Our children.
You know, that's what's really propelling me to do this work.
I'll show you. Hold on. In Red Square, it's like, right, what Russia? Oh, sorry. Is there audio playing through? I'm sorry. Is there something going on? I didn't hear that. I could not hear it. It's not showing up on my meter. Did it go away? Sorry. Is it gone now? Okay, good. All right, thanks. Sorry about that. Yeah, it must have been an ad or something that ran in the back. Oh, God. Like the air cut on my house and shut the door. It's hot in here. Woof. Sorry about that. Yeah, this is they're having a fucking Russian like nationalist concert called One Country, One Family, One Russia. Meaning there is no Chechnya, there is no Georgia, there is no Ukraine. Fuck, there's no Europe. There is only Ruski Mir, the Russian world. Bunch of jackasses. You want to see what the quality human beings that Russia is sending to Ukraine? You want to see that? Yeah, here you go. Then we'll get to the map. On August 2nd, Vladimir Putin personally awarded Lieutenant Colonel Irek Magazimov, boy, am I surprised he hasn't moved to Miami, the title of Hero of Russia. On August 11th, in Lugansk, Magazimov and his colleague Pavel Yazkovich met two young girls. Word by word, the girls got to know better the men who went to the North Military District at the first call and asked to shoot from the Makarov pistol. It all ended in tragedy, writes pro-government Mash, who reported the incident. The publication does not provide the names of the murdered woman or her friend. It is not known for certain who shot the girl. Investigators accused Russian hero Irek Magasimov of murder. According to investigators, he fired the shot while intoxicated. He was drunk, showing off his gun to some girls, and he shot two girls. Magasimov defense accuses his colleague Yazkovich of murder. He accidentally shot the girl while he was holstering his weapon, got scared, and ran away. After that, he wrote a confession. According to this version, Magasimov was not at the scene at the time of the murder. Just lovely. Just what's not to like? Come on, guys. Florida is Little Russia, right? Let's see the terrorist attacks in Pakistan. Let me get one more thing, and then I'm gonna show you the map. Zirona. Let's see. Plotting fast. This is Russian stuff. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna translate this to English. One second. There we go. There we go. And let me go to the deep state map. So we can try to bring this up. There you go. Map of the war of Ukraine. Yes, I know. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go. All right. So I know this. Give me the English. Yes. Blah, blah, blah. And I do not say blah, blah, blah. So here it is. This is the current map of Ukraine. This is the green areas are the territory that Russia took early on and then lost very quickly. And then we go in. Whoops. Go to here. I don't want Moscow, you weirdo. Go into here. Whoop. And these are all the parts where you're seeing a lot of movement. Oh, let me back up. Yeah, so here's where they've moved in. All this is the Verbovna and all these areas. Whoop. Now, they're not listing the breakthrough that happened right here yet because they're just sending stuff in and sending stuff back. But it's interesting that there was a lot more forces around this area, and now they've kind of scattered and widened them out over near Verbov. But let's see what I think they have the timeline on this. Okay, hold on. Occupied 4,000, area of 4,000. Third squad of BARS. And then a lot of, let's see, the other stuff has happened up here. Yeah. Yeah. Avdiivka, all this area around here. And then a big push up here. So it seems like it's a head fake right now. That they're going in and they're, pushing back on these pieces. There's been some Russian push up here. This is the only place they're making advances or trying to make advances, is up in this area because they're assuming everybody's down in this area. But I think they're just, most of these areas, they just get goods out of Russia and just bring them in and just keep attacking. These guys, I gotta say, this is probably, if you're Russian cannon fodder, this is the fucking Kush gig. Yeah, up in the northern Donbass. This is where it gets ugly. Now in this area, there's Avdiivka. There's a lot of space that they've taken in the last little bit. And the question is, do they go to Melitopol or do they go to Berdansk? My guess is go right through Primarsk. Grab this road, come to here, break your way through over here, move this way, take this road, and take this area. It's not as, there's not as many roads going in, but they can't bring in as much stuff either. So that would be my advice. Here to here, and then run some people across here because it's wide open. But then cut this in half, essentially. Now wait, I've got to go back to my regular window so that I don't accidentally show you guys some people on fire. Where is it? Try to find there was another fire in Russia as well. So we go to Carolina. Boy. Hold on. There's a guy jumping out of a window. There's someone being chewed up by a right. That's pretty terrible. Terrible car accidents. Good Lord. There's this weird thing that Russians do where they break the glass things at see that? They don't, when they sneak onto a train, I don't know why you're covering your head at that point. When you cover your head before you thought to do that, they do this all the time. I see constant video of this shit. It's one of I'm dark diving. Yes, I am. Because there's a couple of channels where I can't show you guys fucking anything from them because it's just that bad. Relatively safe. This is footage of a drone. There's two Russian guys. See those guys sitting on top of the tank? They did not make it. Yeah. That kind of stuff. All day, every day. And a couple of the channels. Oh, and by the way, it's a little bit of a trigger warning, but anybody who says they want our government system to be more like Russia or our legal system to be more like Russia, like Jackson Hinkle, a photo of a Ukrainian prisoner in a Russian court appeared online. The Russian defenders held a public trial of the defender of Ukraine who participated in the battles of Azovstal. Meanwhile, the maintenance of one Russian prisoner of war cost the Ukrainian budget about $10,000 Ukrainian dollars a month. They just starve people to death. They don't care. Yep. And, but a lot of people are like, we should be tough like they are. They're tough. You mean cruel? And then, nope, can't show you that. Can't show you that. Nope, can't show you that. Can't show you that. This is one of the stories that's going around and fairly common as well, is Musk's X is the biggest outlet of Russian disinformation, according to the EU. We talked about this last week. But it's one of the reasons I don't go do the trends off of Twitter anymore. I will find a new site for it. As a matter of fact, I think in many ways, Jamie, bring up that special AI that I developed that looks up trends, that tells me what to be afraid of and what's going to kill us all, in a matter of seconds, but never seems to happen. Bring that up and put that on the big screen. I saw a dog eating out of a Russian soldier's brain pan. Yes, I have seen that footage. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's my character, Joe Brogan. Yeah. Let's see if I can, because there's, oh, what was that? Front door. Someone's at the front door doing the thing. Somebody ring the bell? I don't know. Uh-oh. I got 4 minutes left and there's somebody at the door. Yeah. There you go. There's some simple math for you. Who was the bald man? He was a Ukrainian prisoner of war. Yeah. Also, let's end on this real quick. I just want to be abundantly clear on something. The Saudis have cut oil production by 1.15 million barrels a day. And let me be abundantly clear why that is. There are two primary reasons. One, they don't have the capacity they say they do. So a portion of it is them lying about capacity they don't even have. But the other reason is because they want to give Donald Trump and his allies a leg up. They know that gas prices are the way you manipulate the American public more than any other anything they have control over. I'm sure there are other ways of doing it. This is their version of, like, it's the 9/11 that keeps on giving. You can only do a 9/11 every, few decades in theory, or people just go to straight war with you. But this you can do all the fucking time. And that's what they're doing. Saudi Arabia and a handful of other countries, OPEC Plus, stunned the world on Sunday by announcing significant cuts to their oil production, totaling more than 1 million barrels of oil per day starting in May. This is in April of this year. And they've been at this ever since. They raised it another 30 I want to say 300,000 barrels. Oil markets have responded with a jump, which is the whole point. Crude prices dropped sharply last month, and so this is cascading across the system. Why do supporters of authoritarian regimes think they will not be next against the wall? Because for the same reason that, tanky Marxist lefties think that somehow once we become a socialist country or become fully communist, that they won't be wiped out because of their loudmouth criticism of the internal workings of the system that they believe that they'll have a head start being a part of. Everybody believes that. Everybody that believes in authoritarianism you have to be deluded to think it works at all. Once you pass that line of being that stupid about it, then of course the rest of it's all blind spots. Hey, Jill, how are you? You made it just in time. I'm right at the tail end of the show. I will be having an afternoon show. We've got the radio show tomorrow. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. I'm going to go run some errands. And like I said, I want to thank you guys again. We will continue the Venmo, as a way of supporting the show. But now it's to, add accoutrement to the computer and help the show run. If you feel like donating via Venmo, that's what it will go towards. If you have Cash App, we have the other thing too. And of course, PayPal and whatnot. But also Super Chats and all that thing. Thank you guys for your support of the show. We ordered the computer today. I did. I ordered the computer today. I don't know why I say we. It's this weird, strange thing about it making a community. I'm by myself here, largely in this endeavor. But but on behalf of you guys, hi, my love. Was there somebody at the door? No, but I gotta go. Okay, hold on 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. We've got girl. I think that's a lovely thing. Why not just exit? Because check the staff chat. I will. Okay, thank you. Before I go, why not just exit? Because I can't. Because it's a Midwestern goodbye. That's how shit works around here. You know that. Everybody knows that. Is it possible? Brian's good for Sunday. If you are, yes, we'll. Let me figure out when the timing would be for it. Yeah. The audio's on. You can hear you. Okay, good now. I fixed it, I think. Yeah, it's gone. Okay, we're fine. Oh, I see. You're talking about the other audio. Gotcha. Anyways, love you guys. I didn't want to leave without saying a proper goodbye. It's a Midwestern thing. Because if I can't say goodbye to you guys, then you know what that means. Oh, thanks for the gifted subs. Memberships. Yay.